Good afternoon, HMS Bobcats. Mr. Flato here. Welcome back to another week at the Helena Middle School. The weeks are starting to count down a little bit. The weather is starting to get nice, and that means many things. But one thing for this week, it means Service Day is coming up. Service Day has become such an important part of our culture at Helena Middle School. It's become such an important part of community outreach. HMS is its own little society, but embedded in the bigger society of Helena is HMS. And we live in a society where we all have to work together. We all have to represent our community. We all represent the good and the not so good in our community. And society and community is all about helping one another out and doing things for one another, even if that extends outside of our community. I'm really hoping that everybody can roll up their sleeves later this week and do some great work and be here on Friday. Because community service and what the community thinks about Helena Middle School, the optics of it, our reputation, it's all very, very, very important things. And as you get older, you really start to understand the importance of selflessness and altruism and doing things for other people and how important that is. And I'm going to tag this intro along with the Bob lesson I made back in 2021, outlining some of the awesome things that our students did in the community, did around our own community of HMS to make it better, and start wrapping our minds around that. Hope you all have a great week, and I hope you all have a great service day and learn the greater importance of community and having an active voice and having active actions in our community. Today's Bob lesson is going to be a little bit different. Mr. Boyle received an email from a community member outlining some awesome stuff that some students did a week or two ago, and it kind of got me thinking about all the awesome things that some of you students do, whether here at school or out in the community, and how much pride we take in that, representing HMS and representing our school, which to me really is one big family. And it got me kind of thinking on all that awesome stuff and on the flip side of when students aren't so Bob and some of the messages and how we're perceived in the community. And so then it got me thinking on that, and it got me thinking on a couple other examples of awesomeness that I have seen students and heard about students doing. And so I just really quickly wanted to outline today the great work, figure out who those students are, give them their proper kudos, and kind of have a feel good going into winter break. So here we go. Let's rock and roll. Let's finish these last 3 days strong here of 2021. All right, Bobcats, we are off and running on this week's Bob lesson. I decided to title this one Doing the Right Thing. I think by middle school, we're all at the age where we know right from wrong. We know when opportunities present themselves to do the right thing, be selfless, help somebody else out. And we also know when we have the opportunity to make decisions to be selfish and do the wrong thing. And really, it's a choice that we all have to make at different points in our lives. And what I'm going to go over today was some students doing the right things and doing some really awesome things. But first, before we get going, let's be our best this short week at HMS. Let's be safe. Let's be responsible. Let's be respectful. Let's be a learner. First example I'd like to give, this story goes back a couple of years ago when somebody in our community graffitied some of the sidewalks outside of our building, and the crews you can see in the lower picture, there was somebody graffiti some person, and our custodial staff tried and could not get it to come up, and it was kind of an eyesore when we would have community members walk by. When you were walking by, the Lazy Green is an extension of HMS, and it's a part of representation of HMS. And Miss Cook, shout out Miss Cook, and some of her student council kids came up with a very creative solution to paint over it, and to paint over it with the be safe, be responsible, be respectful, be a learner. And you see some of our student council students out here. Shout out all of our awesome student council kids from this fall that painted over it and decorated it up and took a negative situation and turned it into a positive, where it added to our positive culture of our school and our environment and our property out here. And I just thought this was the coolest thing. I've seen a lot of amazing and cool things in my 7 years at HMS,
but I thought this was really awesome. These kids in student council, it's selfless. They did it on their own time. They did a great job doing it. And just an example of our kids doing the right things and representing HMS to the fullest. Kudos to Miss Cook and the student council kids. Another example of our HMS Bobcats just doing awesome selfless things to help in the community is Mr. Blaz's group. Shout out Mr. Blaz. He has a group of students every fall that rake up leaves in the neighborhood around HMS to give back to our neighbors. Again, these are students that dedicate their time after school. It's one day during the school year, and rumor on the street is that there's a greenhouse right there who gives cookies to students. That help out. And I cannot confirm or deny whether that is my mom that does that. But so moving forward, if you'd like to be a part of Mr. Blaz's group of picking up leaves, that would be awesome. And just again, another great example of our students doing things for others, helping others, and being selfless. Keep up the great work, kids. One of my favorite acts of kindness was last spring when a group of students all met at Mount Helena, and the H that many of you can see on Mount Helena, there was some students that went up and vandalized it and got it all out of sorts. And we had a group of HMS students and staff go up and put the rocks back in the right formation to make the letter H, spray painted it, put all the rocks back together. This was another really cool, selfless act for the community that HMS was well represented. Something again that just happened recently was some student council students created this tree that they donated to the Intermountain Festival of Trees, and they were able to help Intermountain raise $200 in a silent auction that was held earlier this month. And then that money goes towards helping students and young people in our community. Just yet another awesome example of selflessness and doing things above and beyond themselves to help others. Great work, kids. And our last example, but definitely not least, was an email that Mr. Boyle and Ms. Rowling received from a community member that lives somewhat close by to HMS. And I'm just going to read the email. The subject line was praise for students, and it said, "Good evening, Principal Boyle and Principal Rowling and Boyle. My name is Katie. I live on the corner of 9th Avenue and another cross street. And on their walk home from school today, a group of students noticed my dog, Penny, had gotten into a package that was delivered and eating its contents. The package was a ton of chocolates. And for those of you that are pet owners, you know chocolate is very, very, very bad for dogs. They were so kind to intervene, pick up all the packaging strewn about the yard, throw it all away in the garbage, leave a note, and knock on a neighbor's door to let someone know. My neighbor got in touch with me right away to let me know. Your students were wonderful and did everything right to mitigate what could have been a terrible situation. My family really appreciates them. Hope you're able to pass along our gratitude to those who helped. I should note, many of these kids stop on their way to and from school to give our dog pats on their head. They are the highlight of her day. Happy holidays." And this was just an awesome example of, again, students that had a choice to make. They saw a situation that was unsafe. It was a selfless decision that they made. They went the extra mile to do the right thing, not only for Penny the dog, but for the dog owner. And when we have students out in the community just doing these things and representing our school and our community and our family here at HMS in the right way, I just cannot explain how proud I am of our students, how proud all of the adults are of our students. And we still don't know who this was. So if this was you, please shoot me a message so we can figure out who it is. And I got something brainstormed um, for you. Thanks again, students.
All right, this week's Jelly Bean Question of the Week winners: Iria McNay, Jacob Breen, Cash Neal, Tristan Hill, and Lane Petrie. I did have a couple that I drew that did not have last names on them, so I had to pass those by. Please put your first and last name on them. The correct answer was 78. All right, this week's Jelly Bean Question of the Week. What number is missing from this sequence? We've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 10, 20, 30, 50, 80, the mystery number, and then 210, 340, and 550. If you Think you know the answer? Get your first and last name on there. Make sure it's legible. Every week I run into this. Tune in next week, see if you're a winner. All right, Bobcats, let's make it a great week at the Helena Middle School.